Hey y'all, welcome back. I'm Ashleen Seitz, writer, coach, goofball. So excited to have you here in this editing series we're doing. Today, we're going to talk about a fun thing, editing for comedy. It's not always easy. In fact, it's a skill you really have to keep working on for most of your life, especially as your sense of humor changes and as what your writing changes, but it's pretty fun. So I'm excited. Let's do it. So, editing for comedy. The first thing you need to know is that how to write comedy, how to write funny is its own thing. And we can come back to that later. I actually took a masterclass on how to write funny from a Jewish woman who lives in New York City. The class itself was hilarious. And she has so many thoughts. And I can't remember her name. I really wish I did. But maybe you could just Google it, how to write funny masterclass. I would recommend doing something like that. And also, I'll probably talk about how to write funny at some point in the future on these YouTube videos. But for now, we're talking about how to edit. So that's just a side note. I believe that there is almost always a place for comedy in your writing. Maybe there are exceptions. I can't think of any because even in an obituary or something, you could throw in a little line about she is survived by her cat Whiskers and her 478 books, and people would find, that nice moment of levity to it. It doesn't have to be, you don't want it to be rolling on the floor laughing funny and something like that, but just that moment and say, I'm relieving the pressure of all of the serious and all the information and all of that, and I'm finding a little bit of a place for you to just smile a little, and then we can move on. So even in situations like that, I feel like there's still room to edit your comedy in. So let's talk about editing for comedy. 1, check for appropriate use. So yes, in an obituary, you want to just kind of throw in like a little nod to something. You don't want to, I don't even know why I'm focusing on obituaries. I've only written like 2 obituaries in my life. But my thought is you don't want to overwhelm someone with comedy in a serious something. So you're writing poetry and you're trying to get across this beautiful concept of the glory and beauty of the world and how painful it can be and all of that, and you're writing those things, and so you don't want to overshadow that with some long story in your poem or long thing, but you want to just throw in something that communicates this is not all just seriousness. Just throw in just a little line or a few funny words or something like that. So you can decide based on if you're writing an email, if you're writing a book, if you're writing articles, whatever you're writing changes how you will use comedy and levity. In an email, usually it's a one-liner. I used to sign off all my emails with "May your fries always be crispy," and that's enough because I don't need to fill all of the informational portion with comedy. I just want to throw in a little something at the end that says, "Oh yeah, I know you're also a human, not just an information robot." So here you go. So it just depends. Check for appropriate comedy. Anytime there is space for a story, a funny story, tell it. Absolutely tell it. Please tell it. Okay, so that's 1. 2, practice your jokes, practice your comedy. I send most of my funny things in text messages just to test them out, just to see how I'm doing. If I need to start using different words, if things hit funny, and if people, if they react back in text messages with a little haha thing, then I'm like, yes, did it. Can save that one for a copywriting thing, or I can put that into one of my blogs or whatever it is. Even your email signatures. You could start writing, I do this sometimes. You can start writing formal text messages when you're inviting someone to do something, Dear Mr. Mustachio, I don't know. Dear Mr. Mustachio, would you please consider joining me for dinner tomorrow evening? Sincerely yours, and may all your fries be crispy, Ashleen. So you can throw things in there and that to make them funny, and then see how you can fit them into your writing in the future. And again, it depends on what you're writing, but if you're able to adapt your stories so that you get the most laughs, and you can tell them verbally, and then think about what words made people laugh and make sure you include those when you're writing them. So practice. And then I would say 3rd, find a pace. Find a pace for what you're writing. If you're writing a 100-word caption for social media, you probably only have room for one kind of silly little word placement, or maybe a funny one liner, or a interesting choice of emoji, or something like that. If you're writing a 3 to 5,000 word article, then you probably want to put something in every few paragraphs or so, just to make sure that people are still paying attention, for starters, and that they're engaged. Or if you're writing a book, man, I mean, you might have chapters where it's all serious, but for the most part, we don't operate like that as humans. So if you're writing a book, we have a pace of comedy in our lives. So you can even think about, how often do I make jokes or do I laugh about something in life? And then you try to keep that pace in your writing. In my blog, I tend to, my editor helped me hugely with this, because she started every couple of paragraphs, she would put in parentheses, "I'm expecting a joke here." And she would just start putting in there when she was like, "It's been too serious. I need some more. I need some help." And so I got into that pace, and she rarely has to say that anymore, or at least she stopped saying it. Hopefully that's because I'm doing better. Uh, you gotta let me know, Karen. But finding that pace of every couple of paragraphs, putting in either a funny story or an analogy that's a little bit goofy, or whatever it is, finding that pace to keep everything funny. Practice, practice, practice. That's really the main point here. Edit for comedy, practice, practice, practice. All right. As always, subscribe. Come back next week for more editing thoughts. But in the meantime, I want to know what you're reading this week. Let me know. Shout it out in the comments. I want to hear from you. I just started rereading At Home in Mitford. It's a whole series by Jan Karon. My mom read them to us as kids, and so rereading this book, it just automatically, I felt at home, at peace. It was a sense of nostalgia that immediately came over me. And they're very simple novels, not complicated or dark or twisty or anything, but just really felt like home to me. So I'd love to hear what books feel like home to you, and what are you reading right now? Give me a shout out. Talk to you next time.